worried about this part of town tonight?
Yeah, I've already seen 2 guns off.
They trying to open the ATM machine?
Hey everybody, welcome to Minnesota Drummer. I'm your host, Paul Rogne, and on this episode, we got Derek S. Abrams. I'm going to get to him in a minute. I'm very excited to have him on, but right now we have all the riots going on. I was privileged to be able to have the film by Jud Nichols to open up this episode. That video that was taken between last night and today. And for any Minnesotan who's been pretty much glued to Facebook, it's been unreal. So Derek, you've had an opportunity to see this video now. What do you think?
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's shocking, but to be brutally honest, I'm not surprised. This has been coming to a boiling point for a long time.
Right.
And with everything that's happened within the last, I want to say even the last 3 years, with the shootings that I'm aware of that were even brought up in the news, and there's probably at least 10 more that were never even spoken about by the media.
Right.
And it's been going on for far too long in Minnesota. It's been going on for far too long everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of these things that's like, I hope that in some way that this tragedy finally gets people to listen.
Right. Well, what I'm sad about is that there's a portion of the group that's really, they're doing all the damage. And I don't excuse that. I totally was respecting everyone's protest. And there's still a lot of people who are peacefully protesting, which is totally what they should be doing.
Right.
I don't see this damage as being any representation of George Floyd, because they burned down over 70 buildings, and on 35W they were all lining the bridge and throwing rocks down on cars as they were going by, and they're just burning down targets. Every Target I think in Minnesota right now is closed. They're boarded up, and
sure.
It's just mayhem. It's insanity, and the worst part is coming at possibly the worst time in history, with the government shutdown of COVID-19. Additional people are out of work, right?
Yeah.
And so I understand their anger, their frustration, and they're rightfully so. but I really wish they'd get back to peacefully demonstrating.
Actually, I'm glad you bring that up, because there was a guy that I see quite often. That's one of my neighbors that's also in the industry, who he and I get together and we complain about not having any work as of right now. But one thing he was talking about that really made a lot of sense to me was like, during peaceful protests, everyone's trying their best, but there's been so many times where he said it's kind of a byproduct of rage, frustration, grief. I mean, all these things kind of boil up. And then he said, think about it. Like, say you're in your front yard and you're so angry that you kick over the yard gnome, or you get so mad that you end up like punching a wall just because you're seeing red. And he's like, those things are definite side effects of going and trying your best to be peaceful and get your point across. And then when you've got, basically the people that you're trying to get a hold of that are just kind of giving you the talk to the hand thing, where they just stand there and stare at you like a mannequin.
Right.
I can see how that would just make you boil over. But at the same time, it's like, you can kind of compare it to, like, loosely you can compare it to, because this, by no means has anything, compares at all, but loosely you can say, like, with the amount of ball busting that goes on in the music industry, one of the things that we always talk about is that if you lose your cool, you've lost all your credibility. You've lost the game.
Right.
I mean, but it's like I said, this doesn't really compare to the scope of what's needing to be said and how important all this is. But at the same time, you can kind of use it as an analogy. Like, if you lose your cool, you lose credibility. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And I feel horrible about the whole thing.
Yeah. See, I'm concerned about, again, you said credibility. That's such a great point, that the people who are truly standing up for their rights as an American are going to be ignored again, because they're going to be lumped in with this small group of people who are causing this damage, which is so sad. But on top of that, we got a lot of good Minnesotans. This filmmaker, Jud Nichols. I'm so excited that he allowed me to play this film. I want to encourage all the viewers out there right now and listeners. There's going to be more parts to this, and he's going to be releasing them very soon, so make sure to check them out. But it's insane. Now, I heard reports in Los Angeles, where you're living right now.
Yeah,
there have been some of these issues going on in response to what's going on in Minneapolis. Is that? Have you seen any of that?
Yeah. Actually, there was a demonstration in front of the police precinct downtown LA.
Okay.
And that actually turned violent. Where I didn't actually see it, but my friend that I talked to was telling me that someone had gotten on top of a police car, and the police car moved forward, and then the guy ended up falling off and hitting his head, and then people started throwing rocks at the police car. And I don't have any credible sources, but I have heard people say that they're also rioting in many other cities too, like smaller unrest, like people protesting about the whole thing, and it ends up falling on deaf ears, and then someone throws a rock and it just, it boils over.
Dude, so what's scary is that they started in the southern Minneapolis area. It's now spread to Midway in St. Paul.
I'd heard some friends of mine were messaging back and forth on Facebook today, and it's like I find it concerning and disconcerting at the same time that a lot of the news that you're getting is coming from people posting up on Facebook saying this is happening right now, and it's good that we can keep each other informed on these things, but at the same time, it would be nice that it would maybe come across another platform.
Yeah, but the absence of news has been very strange.
Yeah, agreed. It's really weird. Like even I was talking to my parents, and they said, yeah, even on like the 6 o'clock news, it's just kind of touched upon, but not really like the talking point that it really needs to be.
they fucking just so bad at you. Just fucking shot you. Because we're protesting. For nothing, I was sitting there saying George. George Floyd. George Floyd. George Floyd.
Don't put your fucking hands on a black man! Fuck you!
Yeah, the precinct is on fire. The tobacco shop and the liquor store. Target seems to be on fire.
Bunch of gunshots.
And we've heard gunshots. Just be careful.
Shit, okay.
Well, this is a drumming podcast. I think we've talked enough about this. I don't want to bum anybody out, but
I'm
definitely
glad
want to.
I'm glad we have, but I certainly would love to talk about some drums too.
Yeah.
Because that's my absolute addiction. So, as is yours.
Well, the reason why we're speaking with Derek today specifically is because he had made a post a couple days ago about being a working musician and having COVID-19 significantly impacting his career right now. Can you touch a little bit upon that right now? How is it impacting you and other musicians that you know?
For lack of a better term, it's absolutely devastated the entire touring community, industry as a whole. I mean, even just playing regular bar gigs is completely a thing of the past now. I mean, there's nowhere to play in LA. I don't know what the story is in the Twin Cities right now either, with anything being open in order for anything to happen, other than the balcony gigs. But that's not what we're about doing. So, yeah, I mean, it's completely decimated. Luckily, there's still studio opportunities. I'm actually going to be going this Saturday to do some more recording at a studio. I've actually got a bunch of irons in the fire right now. Just trying to keep myself doing something, recording, jingles. I did a couple of weeks ago. I was down at the same studio I'm going to be at on Saturday, recording sound bites.
Okay.
So it's just something, because Because I mean, even the rehearsal spaces are all closed out here.
Oh, really?
Everywhere, yeah. There's the pay by hour rehearsal spaces. They're all closed. There's a few monthly lockout places that are still open, but they're extremely far and few between. And I've got another friend out here that has a lockout space, but they've actually changed their hours from 24 hours a day to only from, say, like 9 to 6 p.m., which I find really strange because, I mean, if it's a lockout, you should have access to it as much as you want. But apparently due to zoning issues and essential business clauses and whatnot, they've had to change hours and they've had to kind of rein things in a little bit because there are employees that go there that do work and do clean the hallways and book out other rooms that they book by the hour. So it's just been kind of tough for them. But I mean, for myself, I mean, it's 3 feet away from me. I got a practice pad kit that I've been beating the dog out of. And I feel bad for my neighbors, but at the same time, I kind of don't. Cause I mean, I got to work, I got to practice, you know?
Right. Yeah. What are musicians, touring musicians feeling right now?
The inside word that I got was that, large tours and whatnot aren't going to be coming back until summer of 2021.
Summer of 2021.
Yes. So like a year from now, we really won't be seeing anything such as like Coachella, Lollapalooza. Any of the large festivals aren't even planning on it until summer of 2021. I do know of a couple of bands that are planning on going out in August.
Okay.
August or September, and those aren't even confirmed. But I know that the grapevine is 2021 of summer is when the next time you'll be seeing anything national touring.
So we did an update story with you last fall, I'll say, about going on tour with the Slayer final tour.
Yeah.
With you in Ministry. Can you talk about that tour? That tour lasted, what, a month?
Yeah, it was from November 1st was the first date, and then the last date was the 30th.
Wow.
That was one of those things, like, I mean, it, for a lot of musicians out there, it's like it's a bucket list tour thing, that, you know, to go on tour with Slayer. Like, for me, it was one of those things, like, it was never on my bucket list because I didn't think it was ever a possibility. But then, and then when the opportunity came up, first I didn't believe it. And then when the band's manager said, no, we're set, it's happening. And then I kind of went home and I said, holy shit, we're going to go on tour with Slayer. I cannot believe this. Like, did I ever think that? No. So it happened. And it was kind of one of those musicians' fairy tale things where, like, it's, you know, what was weird is, for me, I was like this kid in a candy store, like getting to go to these venues and play these iconic places and like getting on stage and thinking to yourself, like, you're playing on a stage that, you know, Led Zeppelin played. Or, you know, or we're here where, you know, especially like at the Forum in Minneapolis and Madison Square Garden and places like that, where it's like, you know, sometimes we'll get nervous if you get in front of a really large crowd. For me, getting in front of large crowds is the thing that I really look forward to. And like, we kind of thrive off of it. Cause like, I think we've talked about this before, but like a lot of us are kind of applause junkies, where like, if you're in a band, the thing that you're looking for is you when people clap, and like you feed off of that. And that's what really causes you to, you know, get into your performance, and really you feed off that energy. They're feeding off you and you're feeding off them. It's just like this give and take amazing thing that happens on stage. But like, to go on stage in front of 22,000 people in Madison Square Garden, where you know you're in New York City and that's a really tough place. It's like just getting on that stage where, you know, it's like hollowed ground. That's what, like, for me, made me nervous. Like, I really better bring it tonight, because this place is like, you know, this is hollowed ground.
Right.
And it was the same thing at the Forum too, where it's like, I just, you know, you really got to bring it. And it was, you know, and I pride myself at, like, I don't care if there's 5 people in the room, and I don't care if there's 50,000 people there. I'm going to play the same show.
Right.
And I'm gonna perform for them like it's the last night I get to play. And I tried to do that every night, and it was one of those things where like you just kind of got to drink it in and keep pinching yourself like, I can't believe this is real. Like I took pictures and video every night after the show just so I could remind myself that this really did happen. You didn't dream. You did not dream this. And I've got backstage passes to prove it. In fact, I even have one right here. Like this is like,
wow.
Yeah. Like everybody, I think there was only 200 of these made, and they're, if you can hear that, they're made of metal.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. Like I'm going to have those framed. I don't care. Yep. And then like there was really interesting things about this tour too. Like they even gave us, if you can see that there, they gave us laminates just so we could get into catering.
Okay.
Because there was so many people on the tour that catering wasn't available for them. Like because it was their last tour, and they had, what was it? Some really interesting things that I learned, just kind of from a professional standpoint, that every time Slayer goes on the road, there's 2 people that wait after the first show that bootleg t-shirts, and they follow the tour on every stop. And there's also people that get their hands on or get photos of backstage passes, and then they bootleg those for every single show. So I think it was for every show that was like a bigger show, like say the Madison Square Garden, the Forum, the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. They had to actually make different passes specifically for that day, and they wouldn't show them to anybody until we got to the venue, and then handed them out to us so that the people that had bootleg passes couldn't get backstage.
Wow.
Yeah, and security was just unbelievable. And just like the well-oiled machine that show was just a thing of it would make anybody you'd be standing in awe, because the crew would load in every morning at 6 a.m. and they would do what they call walk and chalk, where they would get to the part of the venue where they would be setting up the stage, and they would walk through set levels. They get a laser level out, and then they would make chalk marks where all of the pinpoints would have to go for the trusses. They would have that done by 7 a.m. And then by 7:05 a.m., the stage was coming in on the trucks. And then by 7:35, they would have the stage planks laid out and then raised. And then by 7:55, they would start rigging trusses. And by 9 o'clock in the morning, they had stage, front of house, and 95% of the lights put up. And then after that, they would have a fire marshal come through so they could put up the pyro. And there's one guy, Ash, who ran,
what a great name.
Ran the whole show. Yeah, his name was Ash, of course. But Ash was the guy that originally was with Iron Maiden.
Oh.
And he was telling stories to me. I'd catch him every once in a while. He would tell stories like, yep, he's like, I'll have this stage down in 25 minutes tonight. Watch. And he would. And then he would come up, and there was one night where he was like, you have no idea what it's like getting Iron Maiden from Ed Force 1 to a venue. Because he said, this is nothing. We got 5 semis, and we got 15 buses with all the bands, and some of the bands are sharing a half a semi, and this is nothing. Yeah. And some of the stories he told me, I was like, I know why you have gray hair. I get it. I get it.
So tell me a little bit about Paul Bostaph.
Yeah.
Did you have any cool conversations with him?
I had a couple. everybody in the band was extremely busy all day. Those guys are their schedule starts at basically 9 a.m. and ends after the last note that they're playing, and then even then they had their after show parties, and the after show parties were I would sneak into a couple of them if there was like a night where they said, "Oh yeah, come on in, let's have a conversation, let's talk." But like they would be busy all day with interviews. I know Paul at every stop on the tour, he would have, I think it was 4 or 5 1-hour private lessons backstage.
Wow. Okay.
So for almost 5 hours, he was back there just teaching. And then he would go and then he would do a meet and greet. And then he would go after that and do a podcast. And he was just, they were extremely busy the whole time. But when I did get to talk to him, of course, we had the gear nerd, conversations, and we would, and he and I actually play a lot of the same stuff. Like he plays Vader sticks, Evans drum heads, Yamaha drums, and Paiste cymbals. So like
really?
we had, we virtually the same companies. And I got to go and like look at his kit. Like even his kit had like custom made badges for the drums that actually said Slayer.
Wow.
I think I have some pictures of those drums. I might be able to send one to you so you can check it out. It was so cool. It was so cool. I mean, I have tons of pictures and whatnot. Still can't believe I played Madison Square. I'm not gonna lie. I can't believe I did that.
Dude, that's got to be so amazing. I can't even imagine that myself. So, was the show sold out for Madison Square Garden? I thought it was.
Yeah, it was.
What's it like to walk into an auditorium, a stage like that? Like, how many people? How many tickets were sold?
22,008.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and everybody was there at the beginning of the show. There were some places where we would get to, and it would be, the entire main floor would be completely full, and then it would be full halfway up into the lower deck, and then it would kind of get sparse. But then by the end of the night, when Slayer was hitting the stage, it was nuts to butts to the rafters. But at Madison Square Garden and the MGM Grand, like all those, like the bigger venues that we did, they were all to the rafters right away.
So,
which was intimidating to say the least.
Well, intimidating, dude. You shared the stage with Primus.
Yeah.
Phil Anselmo's, I can't remember his new band name.
It's Philip Anselmo and the Illegals.
In the Illegals, okay.
Yeah.
I should know that.
Great guys. Love those guys to death. They're amazing.
Phil's a cool guy, So he used to hang out in Minneapolis a lot. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I got to know him back in the day. He used to hang out a lot. So he's always a cool guy, really serious, but fun. Did you ever get a chance to talk with Tim Alexander?
Yes, I did. Quite a bit, actually. Our dressing rooms were always right next to one another at every place we went to.
Can you give me a couple of discussions you had with him, maybe?
Yeah, it was funny. Like I of course I tried to have a conversation about vintage gear, and he's like, I'm not really much of a vintage guy. He's like, I get what I want from Tama, and I've had such a great relationship with them since the early or the late 80s that if there's something that I want, they'll make it. And he had a completely 100% custom kit from Tama that was all concert toms. Yeah, and they sounded amazing.
So can we stop right there for a second? Since you're a drum guru, dude, why is there this fascination, this interest over the last 3-4 years to going back to concert toms?
I honestly don't have any clue as to why, but I did get it out of Tim Alexander because I saw his kit that was all concert toms, and I had to ask him, like, why concert toms?
Yeah.
He's like, for one, since he had his heart attack, he has 5 years ago, maybe a little more than that. He had a massive heart attack and had to have open heart surgery.
Wow.
And that was one of the he had to leave the band because he was doing they were doing a lot of the kind of reunion tours where they were playing a full album from their older stuff, and then he was touring with them, but he had to step away because he had a really bad heart attack. And he said that he had completely revamped his setup so that when he is playing, it's like 100 times more ergonomic than it was, because he used to have just a huge contraption,
Right.
like almost Terry Bozzio-esque of just stuff everywhere. But now it's really reined in to the point where he's, sitting behind his drums and he's, not really moving around as much. And by the way, he's kicking ass. Like,
Really? Okay.
He's playing things that, like, we all know that, like, he had such amazing technique and feel with the stuff that he was doing before. It's just gotten 20 times better since he's had to, like, really rein his playing in and not worrying about showmanship as much. But yeah, I asked him right away. Like, I even kind of gave him that, like, concert times? Really? Really? Seriously? Playing buckets, buddy. But he explained it like they're so much louder. And now, since the 60s, I wouldn't say that, it was probably the 70s and 80s when they were really had their heyday, when they were actually almost like standard equipment for Slingerland. They had like special lines that were all concert toms.
Mm-hmm.
Bearing edges. It's all about bearing edges now, because you can get any type of custom type bearing edge that's dual 45s, 45-60. You can actually get round over. You can do whatever you want with bearing edges. And he said he had dual 35-degree bearing edges custom cut on the kit, so that way he was getting not as much contact, but slightly more, because they were really sharp edges. But he was getting just as much sustain, and they were also using a lot of effects out front too to get the reverb that they were looking for. And their front of house sound tech was having so much control of what he could do with the drums out front that it was really impressive. But yeah, like, that was the one time where I had a conversation with him about, like, his drums, but everything else kind of revolved around, like, types of music that he liked to listen to. And he just started a cider company, which caters to every single, if you like ciders at all, his company, and I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but he's got double stroke, paradiddle, double paradiddle, and what was the last one? Oh yeah, and buzz roll were the 4 flavors that he had, and they were all delicious.
Really?
And for me, it was just like, oh, come on. This totally caters to me. I'm going to love all these because I know what all these are, and I know who he is as a person, and he has really good taste. Not to mention the fact Les Claypool makes wine himself from Pachyderm Cellars. If you like wine, holy crap. It's it's heaven nectar. I'm not kidding.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But everybody in Primus is they're still focusing on writing music and whatnot, but they're really having a lot of fun with, as Les said at one point, is like in his now what he calls his golden years. He's making wine and kind of mellowing out and writing more music. But yeah, I mean, I got a lot of really good stories out of those guys.
So just for kicks, because I'm a drum geek and all that kind of stuff, as we talked about before, were there any other drummers that came to visit for this last tour you got to meet that you've always wanted to meet and maybe have a discussion with?
Stuart Copeland.
Oh, wow. What was that like?
Fantastic. He doesn't like to talk drums as much. He's kind of over it, but he was really, really gracious. And I got to take a picture with him. I asked him some technique stuff, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I've been playing for." He looked at his watch. I've been playing forever. But he's like, I started with traditional grip. The first thing I asked him, I was like, playing traditional grip versus playing match grip. He's like, well, I started traditional grip. That's what Buddy Rich did, and that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I completely get that. And he said he's always played traditional grip, and that's just how it works. And then I did get to talk to him. I don't know if you got a chance to see this, but he put out a documentary on YouTube. Yeah, it was YouTube, about the history of drums.
Right. And
it was through the BBC, and I got to talk to him about that, and he's really into the vintage stuff and like the history of drums. So I had a really good conversation with him about, like, how important it is that when you find a vintage kit to take care of it, because like it's part of our history, and when they're gone, they're gone. And that's really sad, because I mean, drums are 100 years old. So you think about it. The modern drum kit's only 100 years old. Yeah. But that's, there may have been a lot more drummers that came out, but I didn't get to interact with them at all. And
I suppose.
And I was really happy to interact with who I did get to interact with, because, Stuart Copeland and Paul Bostaff and Chris Contos, they were all there, and they were people that I they've all influenced me in one way or another throughout the years, and finally being able to like tell them to their face, thank you, was cathartic in a sense. It was great.
Oh, that's fantastic, dude.
And I got to meet Aquaman too. Jason Momoa came to the last show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there were a ton of celebrities at the very last show at the Forum. Like,
okay.
Scott Ian, Charlie Benante, Scott's wife Pearl. Let's see, Jason Momoa, Bill Burr, King Diamond. I mean, you name it. They came out of the woodwork just to be at that last performance, and it was emotional for everybody too. Because it was the last one. I'm like, watching Kerry King throw those chains on the stage and just walk off was just like crazy. Like, you wouldn't think that guy would ever give up, and he's not. Let's make no bones about it here. Kerry King walked off the stage and started 7 new bands. You know what I mean? So, but seeing that was just like, holy shit, this is the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was a magic with that band. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think they would come back for like a periodic tour?
I don't know if they'll come back for a periodic tour, but I'm willing to bet that, being that they've been doing it for as long as they have, and they're like us, they're completely addicted to it, there's going to be one-offs.
Yeah.
And if they don't, that would be truly the one thing that would shock me. But like, come on. Once you get bit with the bug, you got to play. So, I mean,
well, if they wait for a long time, maybe they could bring back Lombardo. Like, even if they hate each other, they could, they still have that chemistry.
Right. And they do. They probably wouldn't, but I don't, that's just me, over what I've learned. The last tech that I was working with on the last few tours was my Perkinpine, one of the best drum techs I've ever worked with. But he was Dave's tech for a lot of years. And he had a lot of insight as to why it is that they just won't work together anymore. And it's not so much that. What's that?
Can you talk about it?
Yeah. They won't work together anymore for the sole fact that they've just gotten to that point where they just cannot stand each other anymore, and there's too much hurtful things that happened in the past.
Okay.
That they just really can't get past. And they tried. I mean, like they did for years, especially with, after, what was it? God Hates Us All.
Yeah.
After that record came out, Dave came back. But those ugly things just tend to rear their head again and again and again. And it's too bad, but who knows? The future could hold anything.
So the last time we talked, you weren't quite sure what was the future with you in ministry, because you said at any moment Al could change his mind and what he wanted to do with a drummer. Can you talk a little bit about you leaving the band?
Yeah, it basically, my last show with ministry was the last night at the Forum. Everything had seemed to be on par, but Al had made a decision that he wanted to make changes in the band, And I got a phone call from our manager saying that we are making changes and we really appreciate everything you've done for us. And but we wanted to make sure that you were able to step into 2020 to be able to do whatever it is that you want, so you're not held down by anything. And it was bittersweet to leave the group. Leaving the group on such a high note was great.
Right.
And I have absolutely no ill will towards anybody in the band, regarding the split. And it wasn't my idea, but at the same time, like, they make member changes all the time, and it's a bummer. But at the same time, that's the business. I mean, they're probably going to get either somebody new to play the drums, or they're going to have electronic drums. I had heard from some of the guys that I still talk to in the band, that they were trying to get their hands on more of the original lineup, because this was supposed to happen this summer, was the Industrial Strength Tour, which at the 30 or 35 years anniversary of the Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. Okay. So they wanted to try to get, because the lineup was going to be the original opener, which was KMFDM, and KMFDM and I think was it Front 242, were the original bands that toured with Ministry on their original tour for Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. So it was kind of this big reunion thing, and they were working on getting original members to play back in the band. Of course, they were talking with Paul Barker, but then there was a lot of like, it's like putting two cats in the same room that don't like each other. So really? I don't know if that happened at all, but yeah, that was what I had learned. And I don't know, I mean, considering that everything's been canceled for this summer, who knows what's going to happen. I may get a phone call. I may not. I don't care. But at the same time, I've got, like, since the split, I've met so many people, and I've been able to interact with so many other musicians that I've had so much. I don't want to say more, but I've had a lot of great things have come my way, especially with, like I was telling you, I've got to go and record sound bites, and I've kind of been able to take myself in a different direction, indirectly and directly from the quarantine and being let go. So like I'm writing a record with a new compadre that I met via Ministry. We're writing and recording as many of the dirty, nastiest stoner rock songs that you can imagine, and it's so much fun. And then I'm recording sound bites, and I'm also working on some other things with I'm kind of trying to test my waters in getting into Foley, which has been an absolute fascination of mine. Yeah, Foley, like recording the sound effects that happen in movies. It's like for a drummer, it's kind of a playground, because you get to figure out how to make it sound like the aliens popping out of the chest, or the horses are coming by, or making it sound like they're actually in dirt and sword fights and whatnot, and choreographing these things. Like, it's always fascinated me, and I've been able to talk and meet with more and more people about how to go about doing it, and how to work in that industry. So I'm really excited about what I should say what 2020 has in store for me, but I'm more excited about 2021, because there's also some other things that I can't talk about that I've got in the fire as well. But when I can talk about it, I will talk with you first.
Awesome, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that, what about Three-Headed Snake? What's going on with that?
Three-Headed Snake is, as far as I know, is moving forward. Last I talked to Sin, he's been recording songs, writing songs, and then Johnny's been writing lyrics, and they sent me some stuff to listen to. It's just been a matter of getting things written and getting into the studio to do it. And right now would have been the perfect time, but the engineer that we work with has been, he's been the man about town since the lockdown, because he's been in the studio. He's had so much stuff dumped in his lap that he's been working on nonstop that he hasn't been able to get to anything actually like tracking live. Okay. So we're kind of waiting in line for that. but yeah, I mean, it's moving forward, slowly but surely, and I'm excited. I'm excited to write more music and play more with those guys because it's fun music. It's really fun music.
Last time we talked, which we just figured out was about a year ago now.
Yeah.
We talked about you were wanting to get the double bass pedals from Yamaha. I think the FP9s.
Yes.
Did you get them?
I have them. Yes, and I'm really happy with them. They had just come out at that point, and I was really needling my rep from Yamaha to get my hands on them, and then I actually didn't get them until what was that? November?
Okay.
Yeah, so it took them a while because I had saw them at NAMM, and then I was like, I must have these. My only complaint that I have about the pedal is that the mallet beater that comes with the pedal itself, they only offer felt, and I'm a huge fan of being able to use the plastic side or the felt side. So that's the only thing I can complain about. Like, adjustability is absolutely unreal. The feel of the pedal is extremely smooth. And the way that you can work you can adjust the springs and the actual cross member for the double kick pedal that they have is just a tank. It didn't take a lot of adjustment right out of the box. In fact, I did that. Like, I know a lot of drummers, and I bet this has happened to you, where you'll go to make a couple little fine adjustments on, say, like the slave pedal and then the primary pedal, and then you won't quite like it, and then you find yourself messing with it for 2.5 hours, and then you end up right back where it was when you started.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened with me. Like, I got it out, and I was like, oh, let me dick with it a little bit, and I got the tools out, and and would make the small adjustments and tighten things down, and then play it, and then go back, not quite right, and then I would go back to it until finally I was like, there it is. And then I looked at it, and it was back to the factory settings, where they had all the specific little hash marks. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Why did I do that? And that's not the first time I've done that either. I did that with a DW 9000, 5000, 7000, and 8000.
Wow.
Collectively, I think I've got 25 hours into bass drum pedals where I should have just let it alone. Just leave it alone. It's good. But yeah, I really like that pedal a lot. I recommend it highly. But the one thing that I will say, and I even told my rep that I think it's the FP90 the FP95, the pedal version just before that has a beater on it that has plastic and felt. I had him send me a few of those, and I replaced the felts, the felt beaters with the older style ones. It actually, in my opinion, improved the feel of the pedal just a little bit. So
wow,
yeah, I recommend that pedal highly. It's a direct drive pedal, and I think it has every bit as good a feel as, say, like a Trick or the DW direct drive pedal that they've got, and the price point on it is extremely affordable.
Really?
Yeah, never don't toss Yamaha out the door when it comes to their hardware. They've their pedals are actually they're great, and because I know a lot of people are they're really strict about their brand names. Like, they'll pick a brand, and the brand loyalty that a lot of drummers have is impressive. But at the same time, I'm never afraid to try something different. If someone, if I get a chance to give it, I always say, if I get a chance to give it a day in court, I'm going to give it a day in court. And if it comes out not guilty, well, we're going to start using it. And and that's definitely one of the pedals that, if you're looking to try something like that, give it a try. I really like it.
For all you Minnesota Drummer viewers, and Derek included, David Stanek and I reviewed his FP9. We did an unboxing in the episode, and it's a long episode towards the end. But those pedals were amazing. And did you know it was designed and developed by a Minnesotan?
I did not know that.
Yes. I got, dude. We got so much coming around the corner. I'm so excited to share with you about Minnesotan drummers who have developed a 9000 pedal, and the original chain-driven pedal was developed here in Minnesota.
Really?
Yes. And I have the guy who did the original development. I cannot get him to admit it. I know he did it. Yeah, and it's a very interesting story. And I'm going to break him. And but there's just so much history that's been developed here. But also the guy who invented the FP9 invented the Roland V drum sets.
Really?
Yeah, and you know his name's escaping me. We talked about it in the episode David and I did. But I'm going to get him on the show, and we're going to talk about the Roland V kit as well as the FP9 bass drum pedal. And I'm just honored to be able to say, some Minnesotan that did that.
There's something in the water.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Just talking about new gear, because you're, dude. Again, I'll just go on. You're a fantastic drummer.
Thank you.
I love the way you play. I love your approach. And I'm not trying to kiss your butt, but I will for a minute there. Sorry. But so years ago when I worked at Rims Percussion, I had the opportunity to haul around Dennis Chambers, and for a few years, we used to keep in touch, and he used to give me a lot of pointers about my hands and where to play. And he used to say, take a silver dollar, trace it on a pillow, and then just do your rudiments in that dot. So every time I got a practice pad, I'd do the same thing. But honestly, I never had the discipline to hold it in the dot. Have you heard of the new Ahead Wicked Chops? This thing? Yes,
I have seen those.
So my hands are so horrible right now. But dude, I am so excited about using this thing. And I thought you and your amazing hands, you haven't had an opportunity to use this yet?
I've only got to try one at NAMM. And I love the fact that on the bottom side of that, you can actually just put it right on a cymbal stand.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Yeah.
So you think
to say the truth, you know what I've been using?
What?
A Coke bottle.
Really?
Yep. I take the cap off a Coke bottle, or I'll set a Coke bottle down, and I will force myself to just slowly play paradiddles and be able to strike the center of it. If I can't bounce it, or if I'm bouncing off the side, I got to stop, slow down, and and a Coke bottle is about the size of a quarter, so that's difficult. But that's one of those things that I would catch myself doing in we'd be stopped at a show. I'd do it on the tour bus, and I would just sit and slowly play either inverted paradiddle or regular paradiddle, just a right, left, and just make sure that you're focusing, but yet almost like it's not in your direct path of vision. It's almost like you're still focusing on the peripheral. That for me has been one of those things that kind of help me focus a lot. And then after that, say you get onto the kit, then making sure that you're keeping ergonomic and not having to look at where you're going, because most of us we'll do that thing where we'll be playing something and then we'll look over real quick, add beat beforehand, so we'll figure out what we're doing and then we'll move our hand across. We all do that. I've found that if you take the time to say work with that small little practice pad and then go even smaller, then it also helps you in that aspect you could then almost just blindfold yourself, and then where everything is, and you've got the confidence that where you are hitting is where you're, it's where, I should say it's where you're hitting is where you're hitting,
right?
For lack of a better term. But yeah, I've done that before, but I'm looking forward to getting my hands on one of those too. That's an amazing piece of equipment right there.
Well, what's funny is that it's such a simple, stupid idea. I wish I would have thought of it.
I know, right?
But the thing is, I'm worried. It's going to take me a long time to be able to get the discipline to hit this area. I don't have your hands, but it's going to take a lot of practice, I think.
You'll be surprised. Okay. Yep, you will be. you've been doing it long enough to the point where you'll be able to get playing, and then you'll find yourself after, I'm guessing within an hour, you'll be able to get a nice slow rudiment. Say either, I would say start with just a regular paradiddle or double strokes.
Okay.
And try this too. If you're finding yourself kind of all over the place, stop yourself and say mama daddy when you're doing double strokes. Mama daddy, mama daddy, mama daddy, mama daddy.
Okay.
It tends to take the focus off of your specifically what your hands are doing, and it kind of incorporates your entire body and your head too.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would recommend that. It's always worked for me, and I've always kind of had that control thing that it's just, I don't necessarily want to say it's hand-eye coordination. It's just being able to trust yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So during this COVID-19, everyone's trying to think of different things to rehearse. The things that I'm trying to work on, which I haven't done yet, but I'm planning to. But I'm sure that, most drummers that I see struggles with as well are your rudiments and your feet. So if you're at home right now and you're trying to figure out what to do, can you give me a suggestion from a teacher's point of view? How long should you work on the hands, and how long should you work on the feet if you only have like a half hour to 45 minutes a day to rehearse?
If you've got limited time, pick and choose your battles. Whatever one you're frustrated with most, work until you're frustrated, and then step away from it. But have a goal in mind for, say, you want to work on the speed of, say, like a 6-roll, just for example.
Okay.
Pick that technique. Focus on it. Laser focus on that one. Play it until you're absolutely frustrated. Then just don't be afraid to walk away from it and move on to something else. Because the last thing you want to do is push yourself to the point where you're starting to dislike it. And then once you dislike it, then you're not gonna want to work with it. And it could be one of those detrimental rudiments that you could turn into one of the most amazing licks that you'll end up playing all the time. Like the 6-roll was something that I kind of struggled with until I had that moment where I realized that I was always trying to play it backwards. And then after a while I was playing it, and then I started playing it faster and faster. And then I started playing it where I was kind of thinking of it where you've got that, what is it? Right, left, or right, left, right, left, left. So I was playing it right, left, left, right, left. Where if I play it backwards, I can play it 10 times as fast. But it's only the mindset that I had where I was looking at it on paper from where it starts on 1 to where it ends as the rudiment itself. But then if I play it that way, and then the very next bar, I get into the mindset that I'm technically not playing it backwards, but in my head, I'm playing it backwards. It's almost like I think a lot of drummers kind of have. It's kind of a form of it's not dyslexia, but it's where we all hear things differently, and sometimes you'll hear things that make sense in your head to play it this certain way, but then on paper, when you try to play it, grammatically, we'll say grammatically correct, notation wise correct, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
that's because the way you think about it is slightly different than the way that you're actually gonna go ahead and physically play it. So the best thing you can do is to like laser focus on something that is frustrating you, but don't get caught up in the technical aspects of how it looks and how it's supposed to sound, but worry most about like the sticking pattern and making sure that you're playing it in a comfortable way where you're not, it doesn't feel like you're going to trip over yourself when you're doing it. And pay attention to yourself when you are kind of, say, sloppily playing it, where you're really trying to just push yourself to play it faster and faster and try to keep it cleaner and cleaner. Really pay attention to yourself, how you're holding yourself, and pay attention to the actual sticking pattern, and worry more so about the dynamics of making sure each hit is represented properly. And which I know that's kind of getting a little heady with the whole thing, but
well, that's what I was looking for, though, because so many teachers have said, okay, they give me like the 24 rudiments to do. And they say, okay, work through each one of them every day for a half hour. And quite honestly, elsewhere, after a year, I never improved. Right. And so focusing on one and just going through it and driving it up to like, what do you think is a good moderate tempo to be able to say, okay, I mastered it, I can move on to the next one? Not mastered it, but I have it.
That's a good question. That's time, like the speed's kind of relative, but for me, I would say like a good tempo is one where you're able to play it to the point where it sounds fast to you, but yet it still sounds clean.
Okay.
Be that 80 beats or 120 beats per minute. Always be pushing yourself to play it faster and faster and faster and faster. I would say the best thing you could do would be to don't worry about timing it right away. Really just focus on getting extremely comfortable with the actual pattern itself. And then laser focus on that pattern, and then the speed will come, on its own.
So you're saying, excuse me, I'm sorry, but you're saying initially don't use the click, just learn the pattern.
Yep, just worry about the pattern. Make sure that you grind the pattern into your brain, so that way it's second nature. It's second nature to just pull that out. Say you're playing something, and one of the greatest things you can also do, if you've only got 25 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, take that rudiment that you're working on, and if you can be behind your drum set, play it, laser focus on it until you're feeling more comfortable with the pattern itself, then change the drums. So say for the 6 roll, you're playing the double strokes on the snare drum, but then you're playing the single strokes on your tom and your floor tom.
Okay.
Or you're moving which hands, you're moving which drum you're actually playing the strokes on. And in that aspect, then you really can play with the creativity of the rudiment itself. Like you can change a paradiddle. Sorry about that. A paradiddle can turn into something absolutely fantastic without even having to change the sticking pattern, just changing the drum that you're playing it on. That, to me, really helps in keeping things fresh and not getting too frustrated and too bogged down with like having to work on those 24 rudiments. But they're so important to know how to use those, because once you know how to use them and incorporate them in your actual playing, say playing licks or soloing and things like that, just like it makes it so much more interesting. But yeah, like focus on the pattern, then focus on time.
Okay. Before we get going, though, is there anything that you would like people to know that we didn't talk about?
We did cover quite a bit tonight. So, just keep your eyes peeled for the three-headed snake stuff. As soon as I have anything that I can tell you about that I've got in the works right now, I'll make sure that you're the first to know. 2021 should shape up to be a really exciting year. 2020 is going to shape up to be just as exciting. I have some music that I'll be recording and releasing with some friends of mine that'll be coming out hopefully ASAP. I've got other projects that I worked on with some friends in New Orleans. I did some stuff here, so yeah, I'm still working. And if anybody out there knows anybody looking for a drummer, let me know. I'm free to tour as of right now. That's where I'm at. I'm a free agent. It's been kind of fun.
That's brilliant, dude. I want to thank you so much for your time tonight and being open about talking what it's like to be a musician going through this right now. It's really here. It's refreshing to hear from the musician themselves. Although I'm very sorry you're having to deal with that. I know you're looking for a better 2020.
Yeah,
2020 is everyone's gonna have to write off 2020.
For the most part, it's kind of a blessing in disguise because we can all talk. We can all duck into the studio. We can duck into the rehearsal space, and we can start really honing in our skills. Mm-hmm. And then come next year, all of us are only going to be, better for it. We will all be better musicians. And if we're not, you didn't use your time wisely.
Wow. That's putting thumb screws in, man.
Right.
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for making your time available. It's been such a pleasure again to talk to you, dude.
Absolutely. Same to me. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoy this.
And then, introduce the song and close out the show. It's all yours.
All right. This is Wisdom Screams by Three-Headed Snake. It's a side project between myself, Sin Kardin, Cesar Soto, Johnny Ray, and Dirt Karloff. We are all members of different bands, and we all live all over the United States. But if you could, please go to our YouTube channel, hit the like button, subscribe, keep your eyes peeled because we will be out working as soon as we possibly can. The song is called Wisdom Scream, and here's the video. Enjoy.
Opening beats provided by Alec Tackman. You too can own this fantastic multi-volume library of live drum loops and samples. Whether you're a drummer looking for new ideas or you know a songwriter looking for a drum loop library, this is the library you're looking for. Support a local musician and drummer. Go to Alec Tackman's website. That is www.alectackman.com. Spelled ALECTACKMANN. Are you looking for a drum instructor that will help you find your own musical voice? Whether you're a beginner, advanced, or in between, the David Stanek School of Drumming offers an experienced and professional approach to help you take control of your drumming. David served on the faculty of McNally Smith College of Music for 27 years. Currently, he serves on the Percussive Art Society Drum Set Committee and is a member of the Modern Drummer, Remo, and Vic Firth education teams. David has authored multiple books including Mastering the Tables of Time. It was voted the #1 education book in the Modern Drummer 2009 Readers Poll. Let David help you find your beat. Please visit www.davidstanekschoolofdrumming.com. David Stanek is spelled DAVIDSTANOCH, schoolofdrumming.com. Again, the David Stanek School of Drumming. You've been listening to Minnesota Drummer. Minnesota Drummer is copyright 2020, all rights reserved. Any content played or viewed during this broadcast is used with permission, is copyright of their respective owners, and is used for promotional purposes only. No part of this broadcast can be edited, reproduced, and cannot be sold. Please look us up and follow us on our various social media sites. You can follow us at minnesotadrummer.com. There you'll find our contact forum where you can give us feedback and recommend a drummer. Thank you for listening.